Hello and welcome into today's edition of the Arizona State Sun Devils Insider Podcast. Well, this will be the Wednesday edition, um, but I'm recording this on Monday morning in the aftermath of the Arizona State Sun Devils basketball team starting out the 2025-2026 campaign with a 7-2 record, and in the midst of the Sun Devils facing a fairly challenging Final Four game stretch of non conference play before their second season of Big 12 play. There's no denying that Bobby Hurley has this team playing connected. They are showing up for each other. The offense is intentional. The defense has been improving as of late. They gave up 88 points to USC, but a lot of those points were in the crunch time of that game. Oklahoma was their best defensive performance of the season, I'd argue, against anybody. And it really looks like this team isn't even playing as well as they could be. So there's more potential to untap with this roster. And I briefly wanted to touch upon, like I said, the rest of the non conference slate with a focus on what's to come this week for Bobby Hurley's program. So by the time this recording comes out, Arizona State will have played a Tuesday night game against the Northern Arizona Lumberjacks, and there's no other way to spin this. Arizona State should win this game. They should win this game big. They are upwards of 17 to 20 point favorites against Northern Arizona, and Northern Arizona has some good players. There's no discounting that either, especially Zach Davidson, who averages 16 points per game. But Arizona State is just the deeper team. They have more spacing. They are better defensively, I'd say, and more athletic, just around the board. Just a better basketball team. And that should have them at 8-2. They better be 8-2 to avoid a bad loss. That would be a quad 3 or quad 4 loss for them. That leads them into the real main event of the week, in which they play the Santa Clara Broncos on Saturday evening at 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. It's a TNT broadcast, part of the Jack Jones Classic. And ironically, the Sun Devils are playing against the program that their former head coach prior to Bobby Hurley and Herb Sendek coaches. The Broncos were previously a top 25-30 team in net. They dropped a little bit due to a 27-point loss to the New Mexico Lobos. I believe that was a couple of days ago. Yes, that was Saturday. The Broncos' profile has dimmed a little bit since that loss because their other loss was to St. Louis. Those are decent losses, but they're not great losses either. They did defeat Xavier earlier in the season. They did defeat Minnesota, so they have some decent wins to their name. But I think Arizona State should win this game. I'm not as concerned about this game as some people are. And it's still the opportunity to pick up a quality win. The Broncos have become reliably the third best program in the West Coast Conference behind St. Mary's and Gonzaga. And it'll be a fascinating game. The Broncos do have several go-to players. I believe they have 8 players that average at least 5 points per game. They have 9 players that average at least 5 points per game. So they will be a formidable opponent. But I still stand by my assertion that that game should be a victory. Beyond that, we move to a Wednesday night battle between Arizona State and UCLA at Pauley Pavilion in Los Angeles, in Westwood. 8:30 p.m. tip-off, FS1 broadcast. UCLA is currently ranked as the number 25 team in the nation, although they haven't played up to what was expected of them before the season. I believe they entered the season around the top 10, so they've been a little underwhelming, but it feels like they're starting to catch wind, catch a little bit of fire, and they are 6-0 at home, so this will be a challenging game. Donovan Dent and Sky Clark make up a very talented duo in the backcourt, even though neither has lived up to the billing that was expected them going into the season. Sky Clark has actually played pretty well. Donovan Dent is the player that has underwhelmed a little bit, shooting just 7% from three this season after averaging 20 points per game at New Mexico a season prior. And then the Sun Devils close out their non-conference slates on Sunday, December 21st against the Oregon State Beavers, another former Pac-12 foe. The Sun Devils and Beavers have had some very, very fascinating battles over the years, but Oregon State is struggling quite a bit. They got out of the gate winning three of their first three games of the season. Then they lost five in a row. They bounced back with wins over Vermont and Southern Utah, but it's difficult to see a path for them to defeat the Sun Devils, especially at DFA. I'm not going to discount them because that could very well be a trap game for Arizona State. And we've seen Bobby Hurley teams put lapses up against teams of that Wayne Tinkle coached Oregon State team specifically. So I'm not going to say that that's an automatic victory, but you should feel good about that as an Arizona State fan. Oregon State only has two players averaging double figures this season. They've really struggled to get consistent output from the roster as a whole. I mean, they have several players that are scoring 5 points per game, but the 3-point shooting, 35%, they're pretty average, pretty standard overall efficiency. Defense is probably where they would win that game, but the game has to be played, and Arizona State really has to put their best foot forward in over the next 2 weeks. They can't afford a home loss to Northern Arizona or Oregon State, and they certainly could use an impressive neutral court victory over Santa Clara and a road win over the UCLA Bruins. That's really all there is to it. I don't think there's any more to the surface than that. They begin Big 12 play on January 3rd against the Colorado Buffaloes. And we'll see how the next several weeks go under Coach Hurley. I feel good about it. I think fans should feel good about the situation as is. And this team is ready to potentially shock the college basketball world. And that is really all I have for today. Thank you so much for tuning in to another edition of the Sun Devils Insider podcast. And I will see you with an episode on Thursday morning. Thank you so much.